Hi everyone, welcome to Eve Math Tutoring. Today's lesson is on units of measure and conversions between them. So when converting between kilometers, meters, centimeters, and millimeters, I'm just going to show you a quick trick that's going to help you in your conversions. If you can remember the saying, King Henry doesn't mind drinking chocolate milk, then you'll be able to convert between any of the units. And I'm just going to write that down. King Henry doesn't mind drinking chocolate milk. If you remember the first letter of each word, you can just write them down in that order, okay? Now here, this one represents kilometers, hectometers, Dekameters, meters, decimeters, centimeters, and millimeters. Okay, so now if you're asked to actually convert between those units, so say you're asked to convert between the following. Okay, so let's try. So you're given 1 kilometer and you're asked how many millimeters that's equivalent to. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're just going to go to your chart and go to kilometers and then find millimeters. So you're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the decimal is always at the end of every number if it's not written down. So what you're going to do is you're going to move the decimal exactly in the same direction, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then just fill in with zeros. And that actually gives you your answer for millimeters, okay? So we can do a few more examples. Say you're given 1 meter and you want to know how many centimeters that's equivalent to. Again, you go from meters to centimeters. From meters to centimeters is 2 units over. So you take the decimal and move it over twice, fill in with zeros, so it would be 100 centimeters, okay? Say we had 3.5, I'm just going to write down again over here. King Henry doesn't mind drinking chocolate milk. So 3.5 millimeters, we're going to go to centimeters. So if we're going for millimeters, so as you remember this was kilometers, just fill in what each one was again for you. So if you're going from millimeters to centimeters, you're just going to go over 1 unit. So you do the same thing to your number. You take decimal, move it this time to the left. So then it would become 0.35 centimeters. Okay. So if we have 1 meter and we want to know how many millimeters that is, then we go from meters to millimeters. So we go 1, 2, 3. So we take the decimal and move it over 3 units and fill it with zeros. So that would be 1,000 millimeters. Okay. Say I had 2.7 centimeters and I wanted to know how many kilometers that was. I take my number and I move the decimal. So first I'm going from centimeters to kilometers. So that means I'm moving 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units to the left. So I take the decimal, I move it over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, put it in, fill in with zeros, 0.000027 kilometers. Okay, so just showing you how to convert between the units there. And I find that that saying always helps. And actually, you can use the same chart when you're converting between kiloliters and hectoliters, etc. So I'm actually going to give you another one for that. Okay, so let's try here another one. So again, King Henry doesn't mind drinking chocolate milk. This one's going to be kiloliters, hectoliter, decaliter, milliliter, deciliter, centiliter, and okay, sorry about that. So doesn't mind drinking chocolate milk. Okay, now we're using the same one, but we're gonna actually, I'm just gonna rewrite this for you. Okay, so if you're, okay, we're gonna keep, let's keep that one for meters for now, and I'm gonna just give you a chart. It's kind of the same one, but there's only one difference. When you're converting with liters, okay, so just one second here. Okay, now again, King, I'm just going to write that down. So let's write down the saying first, because that's going to help us place everything. King Henry doesn't mind drinking chocolate milk. Now, kiloliter, hectoliter, decaliter, liters, deciliter, centiliter, and milliliter. So when you're going between kiloliters, liters, and milliliters, you can kind of use the same chart, but you have to watch out for this one here, okay? So now for liters, we're going to use this chart right here. So if you have this chart, you could go from, say, you know, if you have 3,800 milliliters, how many liters would that be? So you would go 1, 2, 3. So you take the decimal, which is at the end of the number, move it over 3 units, and you get 38 liters. Okay, so it would be an easy way to convert between milliliters and liters, which is a common one that we do. Okay, we could do, if we had, say, 8 liters, how many milliliters? Well, then we're going this way, 1, 2, 3. So we take the number at the decimal at the end and go 1, 2, 3. So it would be 8,000 milliliters. Okay? Or say you had, you know, 1 kiloliter and you wanted to know how many liters that was. Well, you go 1, 2, 3 to get from kiloliters to liters. So you take the decimal at the end and move it over 3 units. So it would be equal to 1,000 liters. Okay, so that's how you would use that chart. Okay, so let's do another one. Okay, now we're going to do just going to show you the chart for milligrams and centigrams, etc. Okay, now say we're dealing with, we'll do the for grams. So if we're dealing with mass and we want to do, so let's look at the units first. So the unit could be, we could start with tons, the kilogram, hectogram, decagram, gram, decigram, centigram, and milligram. Okay, and then the symbols for each one. So T, TG, HG, DAG, G, dg, cg, and mg. So for this one, for mass, you can still kind of use King Henry doesn't mind drinking chocolate milk to guide you. King Henry doesn't mind drinking chocolate milk. Now, the thing here is kilograms comes here, so, and we have T in front of that. So what you're going to do for this, you're going to remember to put T first, then you're going to put kilograms. Okay, let's see here. Let's just do this. Okay, so T is going to go over here, and then we're going to have kilograms, hectogram, and then instead of, no, wait a minute. Okay, now here we've got over here we've got decagram, then you have grams. So instead of meters, you have grams. Okay, so those are the units that kind of match each other up. Then you have decigram, so dg, and then you have centigram, and finally milligrams. Okay, so you would use this chart for mass when you're converting between units there. I can just show you a quick example of that. So if you were asked to say convert 275 milligrams to grams, so 275, okay, so 275 milligrams to grams. So you would go from milligrams to grams, so that would be 1, 2, 3. So because the digit's always at the end of the number, if it's not written down, you go 1, 2, 3, so it becomes 0.02, 0.275. Okay, so that would be 0.275 grams. Okay. So this would be for mass. Say you had, 1 kilogram equals how many, say, grams. So then you would go from kilograms to grams. So you go 1, 2, 3. So you'd move the decimal 1, 2, 3 units over. So it would be 1,000 grams. Okay, so that's how you would use the chart to do conversions between, milligrams or grams, etc. Okay, so that's another one for mass. We can do a few more. Okay, now say we had we started off with the metric units first, units of measure, and then we did liters. So volume. So we did volume and we did mass. Now if we were thinking about looking at area, okay, so if you were looking at, say, area, then if you again did King Henry doesn't mind drinking chocolate milk, so it would be kilometers. So area is usually in these units squared. That's the only difference between area and regular measurement. Meters squared, decimeters squared, centimeters squared, millimeters squared. So you would use the same chart for area as for just regular metric, measurement. Okay. And then if we were thinking about, say, so volume with liters was the previous chart, and then finally the last chart was for mass, so that's for weight. Okay, so these could be a good guide to you to help you convert between units of measure. Even if you're dealing with volume, if you're, volume of, objects, besides not in liters, but say you're looking at, meters cubed or something. In that case, you would use the same chart, but your units would just be cubed. Okay, like so if you were looking at volume and you're dealing with cube, meters cubed, you could use the same chart here, except you would have kilometers cubed, hectometers, decameters cubed, meters cubed, decimeters cubed, centimeters cubed, and millimeters cubed in cubed units. Okay, now when you're using the chart here for these types of conversions, so let's look at area first. So when we're looking at area, if you want to convert, say, area for the first one, if you want to convert, now the chart's going to work a little bit differently, so you have to be careful here, okay? So 5.4 meters squared, and you're converting to, say, so the question would say convert 5.4 meters squared to centimeters squared. So if you're looking at the chart, meters squared to centimeters goes 2 units. However, because it is squared, what happens is your conversion gets multiplied by 2, and that's important to remember. So this is only for when you have these units squared. If it was just centimeters, hectometers, decameters, just regular without the square, it would just be 1 time over. But because you have them squared, what happens is your conversion now gets multiplied by 2. So instead of moving the decimal over 2 units, you actually end up moving it over 4 units. Okay, and you fill with 0, so that would be 54,123 centimeters squared. So when you're going from squared units, you have to multiply your conversion by 2. Okay, so say I was going from, 3.5 millimeters squared is equal to how many decimeters squared. So according to the chart, it's 1, 2, but because they're squared, that gets multiplied by 2, so you're moving it over 4 units instead. So what happens is it becomes 3.5, and it goes 1, 2, 3, 4. And now you put in the decimals, so it becomes 0.0035 decimeters squared. Okay, so the same rules, but you just have to multiply your, if you normally would move over by 2 units, you're going to now move over, you're going to multiply that by 2, whatever it is. So if you had to move over 5 units, you're going to instead move the decimal 10 units. Okay, so I'm just going to give, like, so say we were going from kilometers squared, 1 kilometer squared equals how many millimeters squared, say. Okay, now normally with kilometers and millimeters, if there were no squares, we would use the previous chart and we just move over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units. But in this case, because it's squared, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and it gets multiplied by 2. So it actually moves over 12 units. Okay, so it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So you fill in 12 zeros. Okay, and that's how you get your millimeters squared. So a little bit different when you're dealing with kilometers squared units for area, conversions with area. Okay, and for conversions with volume, when you're dealing not with liters, but with, if your units that you're dealing with are cube units, say meters cubed, for example, and this could be used, say, to measure liquid capacity or something. So in this case, you're going to have King Henry doesn't mind drinking chocolate milk. So what's going to happen here is going to become kilometers cubed, hectometers cubed, decameters cubed, meters cubed, decimeters cubed, centimeters cubed, and finally millimeters cubed. So in this case, say you're converting, the question asks you to convert, say, 3,190,000 centimeters cubed to meters. Cubed. So how many meters does this give you? Meters cubed. So you go from centimeters to meters, so that's 1, 2. However, because it has a 3, because the units are cubed, this conversion gets multiplied by 3, so you actually move it over 6 units. So instead of moving the decimal place over twice, I am actually going to move it over 6 units. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the answer is 3.19 meters cubed. Okay. So in this case, just like the previous one, we had multiplied by 2 because they were squared. This time, if it's cubed, you multiply the conversion by 3. So it becomes 3.19. So say we were going from, this time, say, 5 meters cubed equals how many millimeters cubed? So I would go from meters to millimeters, so that would be 1, 2, 3. However, because they're cubed, I multiply that by 3, so that would mean I would have to move the decimal place over 9 units. So because the decimal is always at the end, instead of going 3, I go 9 because it's cubed, so it gets multiplied by 3. So that would be 9 zeros. Okay, so that's how you would do the conversions there. Okay, so I hope you understood the lesson. If you have any questions, feel free to email me at evemathtutoring@outlook.com, or you can post questions